Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by political reporter Emily Brooks. Emily, there's a big election in Virginia this week. It may have some national implications. Let's talk a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so there was a Republican sweep in the Virginia elections. Republican Glenn Youngkin won the governorship, Republican Winsome Sears won the lieutenant governorship, and Republican Jason Miyares won the attorney general's race. This is a very big deal because Republicans have not won a single statewide race in Virginia since 2009, so it's their first win in 12 years. And because this is an off-year election, and it always happens the year after a presidential election, this is often looked at as a barometer of what the mood of the country, how do voters feel about the new or recently reelected president, and could this be a hint for what's happening in 2022? And so it was fairly close. It wasn't as big of a win as the last time Republicans won the governorship in 2009, but it is a very big deal because last year in 2020, President Joe Biden won the state of Virginia by 10 points. That has vanished for Democrats, and it has very much shocked the system for Democrats, and in a good way for Republicans.
And so Democrats nearby on Capitol Hill are feeling some of these reverberations too, as they've already been debating the best way forward on some of their spending plans. This has kind of influenced how some of the different factions within the party want to approach it going forward.
Yeah, so on Capitol Hill, you have Democrats in the Senate who are still trying to come up with the final details of their big spending bill, reconciliation bill, that's going to address things like potentially drug pricing, potentially maybe not having paid leave in there. We have the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, is the key holdout. And so a lot of Democrats are saying, why didn't we pass this earlier? Why didn't we pass the infrastructure bill, which had already passed the Senate, in the House immediately in September? Because then maybe Terry McAuliffe, the Democratic candidate, former governor who is running again for a non-consecutive term, could have gone around and said, look at what Democrats are doing, kind of increased that, sold that to the voters, and made up for maybe some of Joe Biden's lagging, sagging approval ratings, which really seem to have a big impact on the race here. Now, would that have really made a difference in the race? It's hard to say. I think there were a number of factors.
Terry McAuliffe and Mark Warner, though, both have said that they think it might have made a difference.
Definitely. Terry McAuliffe did say he was annoyed by the Democratic chitty chat in Washington, is what he said, and that he would have preferred them to get things done. But I think that was also an acknowledgement to some of his voters that he was also frustrated about what was happening in Washington, that he didn't necessarily endorse that gridlock there. But you did have the two Virginia senators, Democratic senators, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, both of whom are former Virginia governors, expressing a lot of frustration right before and after the election, saying we could have helped Terry McAuliffe out a little bit, and now there is a narrative out there that voters are not on board with Democrats in elections, and that's going to potentially hurt Democrats nationwide in next year's 2022 midterms.
But now you have some liberals, some progressives, who are saying this is actually an argument for why we should have passed the big spending bill, the reconciliation bill, and to have had something concrete accomplished. You know, they're saying that we should double down on what we're already doing.
Yeah, and then that's true. There are a lot of Democrats saying, well, because this win is showing you that voters are looking for something to be done in Washington, and we need to resurrect Joe Biden's approval ratings and approval ratings for Democrats. They think the best way to get prepared for the midterms and avoid what happened after the last time a Republican won Virginia, the very next year, was the 2010 Tea Party wave. Republicans won 63 seats in the House, and it was just a massive change in the power dynamic. So Democrats on the left side of the party are now arguing, let's pass these two bills, spend the next year going around selling all of the things in the bill to the American people, and hopefully that will get them happier about what Democrats are doing.
You know, of course, the last time Republicans won the governorship in Virginia, Democrats ultimately did pass their big bill, which was Obamacare, and Republicans picked up 63 seats in the House. Now, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is talking about maybe a similar number next year.
Yes, he's very optimistic. Republicans all around are very optimistic about winning back the House next year because it is such a slim majority. Nancy Pelosi can only afford to lose 3 or 4 Democratic votes on any piece of legislation before she needs Republican votes to make up for it. So when you're talking about these massive bills, that's a very big deal. And so if you only need to flip a handful of seats, they're looking at really drastically changing the power dynamic in the House, taking back dozens of seats. They've expanded their map to the number of swing districts and vulnerable Democrats that they're going to target. They're going to inject money into the race. And yeah, that's pretty much only further adding to the enthusiasm for Republicans.
Well, Virginia has become the new New York for Republicans. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Thank you.
I don't know about that, but we'll see.
We will see. Well, thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
You can read Emily and the rest of our political team at WashingtonExaminer.com.